Have you ever noticed that some travelers seem to glide through the airport while everyone else looks tired, rushed, and stressed? They board calmly. They avoid the hardest parts of the airport, and somehow their entire trip looks much easier than everyone else's. It almost feels like they know a few travel secrets most passengers never hear about. And the truth is, they often do, because airlines quietly offer free services that can make flying much easier for seniors. Things like help with long walks, easier boarding, better support at the airport, and even small comforts during the flight. But here's the part most people never realize. Airlines usually don't mention these unless you ask. So most travelers never ask, and they end up doing everything the hard way. And with more than 904 million passengers screened by TSA in 2025, airports are busier than ever. And when airports get this crowded, even small assistance services can make a huge difference in how comfortable your trip feels. So in this video, we're going to uncover 15 free things seniors can ask for on a flight in 2026 that can make the whole travel day easier, smoother, and far less exhausting. Some of these can save your energy, some can save you stress, and one of them can completely change how you move through the airport from the moment you arrive, including one service many seniors never realize they can request. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly what to ask for so your next flight feels far easier than most travelers around you. 15. Complimentary amenity kits. Here's something many travelers never realize. On long flights, airlines sometimes carry small comfort kits called amenity kits, and occasionally there are extra ones available for passengers who ask. These kits are usually given automatically to business class travelers, but flight attendants sometimes keep additional kits behind the scenes. If you politely ask early in the flight, you may be able to receive one even in economy. These kits can include items like a toothbrush, toothpaste, lip balm, eye mask, earplugs, or sometimes even warm socks. At first glance, they may seem like small items, but after several hours in dry cabin air, they can make a surprising difference. Freshening up halfway through a long flight can instantly make you feel more comfortable and awake before landing. Some travelers even say these small kits help them arrive feeling far less tired than usual. And interestingly, a few of these kits sometimes include items passengers don't expect at all. Many travel guides note that airlines occasionally provide extra amenity kits to passengers who request them during longer flights. According to Sleeping in Airports, some airlines may offer leftover amenity kits or comfort items to economy passengers when supplies allow. So if you are on a long flight, it may be worth asking the crew politely if any extra kits are available. But here's the interesting part. The most helpful free services actually begin before the plane even leaves the ground. 14. Free assistance between connecting flights. Airports today are massive. In some major international airports, the distance between gates can be more than a mile inside the terminal. For younger travelers, that might feel like a long walk. But for seniors or anyone with knee pain or mobility concerns, it can quickly become exhausting. Missing a connecting flight because the next gate is too far away is one of the most stressful travel situations. That's why airlines and airports provide assistance services that help passengers move between connecting flights more easily. When requested, airport staff can escort passengers through the terminal, help them navigate crowded corridors, or transport them between gates using electric carts or wheelchairs. These small airport vehicles you sometimes see driving passengers through terminals are often used for this purpose. The service can be arranged during booking, at check-in, or sometimes even after your first flight lands. Airlines offer this service because helping a passenger reach their next gate is far easier than dealing with a missed connection and rebooking process. U.S. passenger assistance rules require airlines to provide guided assistance and wheelchair help for travelers who request mobility support while navigating the airport. For many senior travelers, this simple request can turn a stressful connection into a smooth transition between flights. Now, imagine finally reaching the gate, boarding the aircraft, and stepping into the aisle. That's when another surprisingly common problem appears. 13. Help with carry-on luggage. Lifting a heavy carry-on bag into an overhead bin sounds simple, but inside a narrow airplane aisle, it can become awkward very quickly. Passengers often twist their shoulders or stretch in uncomfortable positions while trying to push a bag above their seat. For seniors especially, this movement can strain the back or shoulders. What many travelers don't realize is that airline crews can assist passengers who need help storing luggage safely. Flight attendants would much rather help lift a bag than risk someone getting injured during boarding. The easiest way to handle this is simply mentioning it when you board. A short request like, "Could I get a little help with my bag when we reach my row?" is usually enough. When the aircraft reaches your seat, a crew member can assist with placing the bag in the overhead bin. Preventing injuries during boarding helps both passengers and the airline crew. Accessibility guidance from the U.S. Department of Transportation states that airline staff must assist passengers with stowing and retrieving carry-on items when requested because of mobility needs. Sometimes asking for help with something simple can make boarding much easier and far safer. Once your bag is safely in the bin and you finally sit down, another small issue can appear, and it surprises many travelers every time. 12. Blankets and pillows. Airplane cabin temperatures can change quickly during a flight. During boarding, the aircraft may feel warm and crowded, but once the plane reaches cruising altitude, the cabin air often becomes much cooler. For senior travelers, that cooler air can lead to stiff muscles, sore joints, or general discomfort during a long journey. That's why many airlines still carry blankets and pillows on board. However, unlike years ago, these items are not always distributed automatically. Instead, they are often stored and provided when passengers request them. A small pillow behind your lower back can make sitting in an airplane seat far more comfortable, especially during longer flights. A blanket can also help passengers relax or sleep during overnight journeys. Travel guides note that airlines sometimes provide these comfort items when passengers ask the flight attendants. According to Sleeping in Airports, blankets and pillows may still be available on longer flights, even when they are not automatically offered. A simple request can sometimes turn a long and uncomfortable flight into a much more relaxing experience. But staying warm is not the most important thing your body needs during a flight. There is something even more important. 11. Extra water during the flight. Airplane cabins are extremely dry environments. In fact, humidity levels inside aircraft cabins can drop to less than 20%, which is drier than many desert climates. This dry air can quickly lead to dehydration during longer flights. For senior travelers, dehydration may cause headaches, fatigue, dizziness, or general discomfort. Many passengers assume they are limited to the drink they receive when the beverage cart passes through the aisle. However, flight attendants can provide additional water whenever passengers request it. You do not need to wait for the drink cart to return. If you feel thirsty or need water for medication, you can politely ask a flight attendant for another cup. Medical experts frequently recommend staying hydrated during flights. Harvard Medical School explains that the dry air inside airplanes can contribute to dehydration, making regular water intake important during air travel. Sometimes the simplest request on a flight can also be the most important one. Now, hydration is important, but what you eat during the flight can sometimes matter just as much. 10. Free special meals. Airline meals are not always designed with specific health needs in mind. Standard meals served on flights can contain higher amounts of sodium, sugar, or ingredients that may not work well for passengers managing certain medical conditions. This is why airlines actually offer a variety of special meal options designed for passengers with dietary restrictions. These meals include choices such as low-sodium meals, diabetic-friendly meals, gluten-free meals, vegetarian meals, and other dietary options depending on the airline. What many travelers don't realize is that these meals usually do not cost anything extra. However, there is one small step involved. Special meals usually need to be requested in advance, often between 24 and 48 hours before the flight. This allows airline catering teams enough time to prepare the correct meal and load it onto the aircraft. Passengers who forget to request these meals ahead of time sometimes discover that they are not available once the flight is already in the air. Airlines offer these meal options so passengers can maintain proper nutrition and manage medical conditions while traveling. The Federal Aviation Administration explains that airlines provide special meals for passengers with medical or dietary requirements when they are requested ahead of the flight. For travelers managing conditions like diabetes or high blood pressure, choosing the right meal before the trip can make the entire flight feel much easier. Of course, food is important during a flight, but for some travelers, breathing comfortably during the journey matters even more. 9. Assistance with medical devices. For many senior travelers, involving more than just packing clothes and travel documents. Some passengers rely on medical equipment such as CPAP machines, portable oxygen concentrators, or other assistive devices that help them breathe or sleep properly. What many travelers do not realize is that airlines allow these medical devices to be carried on board without counting them as part of the normal carry-on baggage allowance. This means passengers can bring essential medical equipment with them, even if they already have a carry-on bag and a personal item. Airlines make this exception because these devices are considered necessary for passenger health and safety during the flight. In most situations, travelers simply need to inform the airline before their trip so the crew knows the device will be used during the flight. Once approved, the device can be carried into the cabin and used safely during the journey. Aviation rules allow passengers to bring approved medical equipment on board. The U.S. Federal Aviation Administration explains that portable oxygen concentrators and other approved medical devices may be carried on aircraft and do not count towards standard carry-on limits. For passengers managing sleep apnea or breathing conditions, understanding this rule can remove a lot of stress before traveling. Now, managing medical equipment is important for some travelers. But sometimes the biggest challenge is simply getting on the aircraft comfortably. 8. Assistance getting on and off the aircraft. Boarding and exiting an airplane may seem simple, but the process can become surprisingly demanding. Narrow aisles, crowded boarding lines, and passengers rushing to find space for their bags can make the moment stressful. For senior travelers who prefer to move more carefully, this crowded environment can feel overwhelming. Airlines provide assistance for passengers who need help boarding or exiting the aircraft. This help may include staff guiding passengers down the jet bridge, helping them locate their seat, or assisting when leaving the aircraft after landing. Many travelers never request this assistance because they assume it is only available to passengers with severe disabilities. In reality, anyone who feels uncomfortable navigating crowded boarding areas can ask for help from gate agents or airline staff. These services exist to ensure passengers can board and leave the aircraft safely. Accessibility rules from the U.S. Department of Transportation require airlines to assist passengers who request help with boarding or deplaning because of mobility needs. Sometimes, simply having someone guide you calmly onto the aircraft can make the entire start of the flight feel far less stressful. But stepping onto the aircraft is only part of the journey. For many travelers, the hardest part actually happens inside the airport itself. 7. Wheelchair assistance inside the airport. Wheelchair assistance is one of the most helpful services airports provide, yet many travelers do not realize how widely it is used. Modern airports can require long walks between check-in counters, security checkpoints, gates, and baggage claim areas. For seniors, walking these distances while carrying bags can quickly become exhausting. Wheelchair assistance allows airport staff to guide passengers through the airport without requiring them to walk these long distances. The service usually begins at the check-in area and continues through security, to the gate, onto the aircraft, and sometimes even after landing until baggage claim. Many travelers believe this service is only for people who cannot walk at all, but that is not necessarily the case. It is often available to passengers who simply have difficulty walking long distances. This service is used far more often than many travelers realize. According to data from the U.S. Department of Transportation, airlines handled nearly 900,000 wheelchairs and mobility scooters in 2024, showing how common mobility assistance has become in modern air travel. For many senior travelers, requesting wheelchair assistance can transform an exhausting airport experience into a smooth and manageable one. But walking through the airport is not the only stressful part of travel. Security checkpoints can sometimes feel just as overwhelming. 6. Help navigating airport security. Airport security checkpoints are often one of the busiest areas of the entire airport. Long lines, trays, luggage scanning, and instructions from officers can make the process feel rushed and confusing. For some travelers, especially seniors who move more slowly or carry medical items, this moment can feel overwhelming. Fortunately, assistance is available for passengers who request help navigating the security process. Airport staff can guide passengers through the screening area, explain what needs to be removed from bags, and help ensure personal items move smoothly through the checkpoint. Security agencies recognize that some travelers need extra assistance. The Transportation Security Administration explains that passengers can request special screening assistance if they need help moving through the security process due to mobility or medical needs. Having someone guide you through security can turn a stressful moment into a much calmer experience. Once you reach the gate, there is another small advantage many travelers never think to request. 5. Early boarding or extra time boarding. Boarding an airplane can feel chaotic. Passengers line up quickly, overhead bins fill up fast, and everyone tries to get to their seat before space runs out. For travelers who prefer to move more slowly, this moment can feel stressful. That is why airlines allow passengers who need extra time to board before the main boarding groups. Early boarding allows travelers to enter the aircraft calmly, store their bags without pressure, and settle into their seat before the aisle becomes crowded. These few extra minutes can make the start of a flight feel far more relaxed. Passenger rights rules allow travelers who need additional time to board earlier than the main groups. According to the U.S. Department of Transportation, airlines must allow passengers with mobility needs or disabilities to board the aircraft before other passengers when necessary. For many travelers, those few extra minutes can completely change the boarding experience. But getting onto the plane comfortably is only one part of the journey. Your seat itself can sometimes make a big difference. 4. Accessible seating options. Airplane seats can feel cramped, especially on longer flights. Sitting in a tight space for several hours may cause discomfort for passengers with stiff joints or mobility concerns. Airlines sometimes provide accessible seating options for passengers who request them. These may include aisle seats that allow easier movement, seats with movable armrests that help passengers transfer more easily, or seats located closer to the front of the aircraft so passengers can exit more quickly after landing. Accessibility seating rules are designed to protect passengers who need extra support. The U.S. Department of Transportation explains that airlines must provide seating accommodations when needed to ensure safe boarding and seating access for passengers with disabilities. For many travelers, requesting a seat that is easier to access can make a long flight far more comfortable. Now imagine being halfway through a long flight. That is when another small challenge sometimes appears. 3. Help getting to the lavatory during the flight. On longer flights, passengers may need to move through the aisle to reach the restroom. For travelers with mobility challenges, this narrow aisle can be difficult to navigate. Many larger aircraft carry a special on-board wheelchair designed to move through the aisle. Flight attendants can bring this chair to help passengers travel safely from their seat to the lavatory. Aircraft accessibility rules require certain planes to carry on-board wheelchairs. The U.S. Department of Transportation explains that aircraft with multiple aisles must provide on-board wheelchairs so passengers with mobility challenges can access the lavatory during the flight. Knowing this option exists can make long flights feel far less stressful. Now, assistance during the flight is helpful, but what happens after landing can sometimes matter just as much. 2. Help retrieving bags and navigating after landing. After a long flight, reaching baggage claim can sometimes involve another long walk through the airport. Large terminals often place baggage claim areas far from arrival gates. For travelers feeling tired after a journey, this final stretch can feel exhausting. Airport staff can assist passengers after landing by helping them navigate the terminal and reach baggage claim. Guided assistance services often continue after passengers leave the aircraft. According to passenger assistance guidance from the U.S. Department of Transportation, airport staff may assist passengers from the aircraft to baggage claim or other airport areas when requested. For many travelers, this help can make the final part of the journey much easier. And finally, there is one service that can quietly make the entire airport journey smoother from start to finish. 1. Guided airport assistance from check-in to gate. Airports today are larger and busier than ever before. Navigating check-in counters, security lines, terminals, and gates can feel overwhelming for many travelers. That is why airports provide guided assistance services that help passengers move through the airport from check-in all the way to the gate. Staff members can guide travelers through security, help them locate the correct terminal, and ensure they reach the boarding gate without confusion. Passenger assistance services are part of accessibility protections designed to help travelers navigate large airports. The U.S. Department of Transportation explains that airlines must provide guided assistance within the airport for passengers who request help navigating the terminal. For many senior travelers, this simple request can completely transform the airport experience. Have you ever used any of these services while flying? Tell us your experience in the comments. And remember, sometimes the easiest way to improve your flight is simply knowing what you can ask for.